So I want to thank everyone for being here this evening, giving me an opportunity to speak to you. I hope I'm not blinding you too bad with the bright lights and my shiny head. I did get a comment on that recently, and I can't control that too much, but I'll try to keep it down a little bit. So this evening I want us to look at Caleb in the book of, not Caleb. I want us to look at Caleb in the book of Joshua and Numbers. So I want us to notice a few things about him. He trusted God, he had a different spirit, and God rewarded Caleb's faithfulness. So I've called this lesson, Give Me This Mountain, based out of Joshua chapter 14, verses 6 through 15. We will be looking back into Numbers as well. You about have to for this. And I kind of stole this because I really liked this picture and I thought it went well with the lesson. So I will just admit that's not my creation, okay? So in this lesson, though, we will be looking at those verses. Joshua chapter 14, verses 6 through 15, but we'll have to look at Numbers first. This is about Caleb receiving Mount Hebron, which was promised to him. Now, why was it promised to him? Well, because he was faithful. He trusted God. Only he and Joshua were faithful and believed in God after they had spied out the promised land. So before we look at the text in Joshua, let's refresh our minds on what occurred back in Numbers. So Moses had sent the 12 spies to check out the promised land, and when they returned, all of them but Joshua and Caleb, so 10 of them, gave bad reports, saying how they couldn't take the land. The people in the land were too strong. They had these fortified cities, that we can't do it. And they were really making the people of Israel afraid. So they were forgetting that God was with them. But Caleb said this in Numbers chapter 13, verse 30. Then Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, "Let us go up at once and take possession, for we are well able to overcome it." Caleb remembered that God was with them. They were not relying on themselves to go up and take this land, but they were relying on God to give them the victory. But still, the people, due to the other reports, the people were upset, they were scared, and they were rebelling out of their fear and getting angry. So if we look at Numbers chapter 14, verses 6 through 10, "But Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had spied out the land, tore their clothes. And they spoke to all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, 'The land we passed through to spy out is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord delights in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land which flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against the Lord, nor fear the people of the land, for they are our bread. Their protection has departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them.' And all the congregation said to stone them with stones. Now the glory of the Lord appeared in the tabernacle of meeting before all the children of Israel." So see the difference in the spirit of Caleb and Joshua, what they're telling the people here. Now notice, first of all, the people are so upset, and they see the people are upset, and that upsets them, but in a righteous way, and that's why they tear their clothes, right? But they're showing that this is upsetting to them. They're showing that enthusiasm that this is going wrong. The people are afraid, and it's going the wrong way. But anyway, what they're talking about and what they're saying to the people, they're encouraging them. They're saying this is a good land, just like God told us it would be. It's an exceeding good land. The Lord will give it to them as promised. They're telling the people, the Lord will give this to us. It's called the promised land for a reason, right? He's promised it to us. He will give it to us. Do not fear. They're telling them, do not fear. They are our bread, meaning we're going to have them. Like we would say today, we're going to eat your lunch or something. We're going to be the winners in this conflict. They are without protection because they do not have the Lord. That's the implication there. And then, of course, reminding them, the Lord is with us. And then we see how the people react. The people really just melt down at the truth of what these men are telling them and decide to stone them. The people are so out of sorts and so filled with fear that the idea of this truth that God would take care of this, they're going to stone these men. It's kind of hard to fathom in a way, but we see similar things in society today, where sometimes when you speak the truth, when you talk about something like, God is going to take care of it, or we're trusting in God, it can make people angry and upset. So anyway, God had to intervene or they would have died. If he had not appeared, the glory of the Lord appeared in the tabernacle of meeting. If he had not appeared at that time, as far as I can tell, they probably would have stoned him. But God pulled everybody's attention away from there. He intervened and saved Caleb and Joshua. He then said that these people would not go into the promised land. They would not. However, God said this about Caleb. Numbers chapter 14, verse 24, "But my servant Caleb, because he has a different spirit in him and has followed me fully, I will bring into the land where he went, and his descendants shall inherit it." So the land promised to Caleb, this land where he went, that he went and spied out, the Lord is promising that land to him. Why? Because Caleb was faithful, because he trusted, he believed in God. He was following the Spirit of God. He had that different spirit, that different outlook than the people. And the other spies too. The other spies were giving that conflicting story, of fear and of weakness, that they could not take it. So when we follow the Lord and are faithful, we are blessed. God rewards those who follow him and believe in him. And I'm not talking about trying to get rich. I'm not saying God is your heavenly banker, nothing like that. But God blesses us in this life when we follow him. He blesses us spiritually. He blesses us with peace and love and wisdom. And he does bless us in our daily needs. Our daily needs are taken care of. So certainly he is taking care of us. We are very blessed by him when we follow him. Now we want to look at Joshua chapter 14. But before we read that, we want to remember this is 45 years later. After this event in Numbers. This is 45 years later. After the wandering in the wilderness, and after that they have conquered a portion of the promised land. They've not conquered it all, but they've conquered a portion of it. And let's see. Yeah. And so that's where we are. And we're going to look at Joshua chapter 14, verses 6 through 9. Then the children of Judah came to Joshua in Gilgal, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, said to him, "You know the word which the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, concerning you and me in Kadesh Barnea. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought back word to him as it was in my heart. Nevertheless, my brethren who went up with me made the heart of the people melt. But I wholly followed the Lord my God. So Moses swore on that day, saying, Surely the land where your foot has trodden shall be your inheritance and your children's forever, because you have wholly followed the Lord my God." The children of Judah mentioned here in verse 6, when we look at that, those are relatives and leaders of the tribe of Judah who are just supporting Caleb's claim. It's kind of an official thing. They're not necessarily like coming forward to threaten Joshua or anything like that, but they're just coming out in support of Caleb. And like I said, it's kind of an official thing that he's going to receive this land. So Caleb comes and reminds Joshua of the promise that was made to him by God through Moses. And this is similar to what we discussed back when we looked at the first 5 verses of this chapter, they are remembering to do the things that God has commanded them to do all those years ago, 40 years ago, before they went on their wandering and all of that. So Caleb, again, he's reminding Joshua here, before the land gets divided up, don't forget what the Lord has promised me. So he needed to do this before they started allotting the land, because Caleb's land had already been designated to him and his family. And I'm sure he just wanted to make sure there was no human error. He trusted God, but people sometimes make mistakes. So they came out like this. There's no indication of any conflict or hostility. It's just a reminder and this official designation of his land. So if you notice what I underlined in verse 8 and 9, you'll see this idea I mentioned again in verse 14. This is a testament to Caleb's faith, that he wholly followed the Lord. He wholly followed him. Doesn't mean he was necessarily perfect, but he wholly followed the Lord in this case. Now, 45 years ago, this is when, let's see. I'm sorry, hold on a second. I think I got my things messed up here. But anyway, it's all right. He believed and trusted God would give them the victory. That was 45 years ago, right? So 45 years ago, he believed that was going to happen. And he's still believing this whole time, through the wanderings in the wilderness, through the fighting for the land. He's still believing God's promise to him that he's going to receive this land, this mountain. So he's still believing that after all this time. So the word for holy here in these verses just means fully, completely, just like we would think, nothing unusual. And like I said, it doesn't mean that he was perfect, but in this case, in this sense, his faith was fully, complete, and correct. So if we look at verses 10 through 12, and now behold, this is Caleb speaking, and now behold, the Lord has kept me alive, as he said, these 45 years, ever since the Lord spoke this word to Moses while Israel wandered in the wilderness, and now here I am this day, 85 years old. As yet I am as strong this day as on the day that Moses sent me. Just as my strength was then, so now is my strength for war, both for going out and for coming in. Now therefore, give me this mountain of which the Lord spoke in that day, for you heard in that day how the Anakim were there, and that the cities were great and fortified. It may be that the Lord will be with me, and I shall be able to drive them out, as the Lord said. So notice Caleb is giving the Lord credit for him still being alive here to receive this promise, for the fact that he still has his strength. And imagine being 85 years old and still being as strong as you were when you were 40. That would be pretty good. That would be pretty good if you were 60 and as strong as you were at 40. I'll say that. So anyway, it's quite remarkable. Now in verse 12, depending on your translation, it may say hill country and not mountain. This was actually like a little range of mountains. So it's really not just one mountain, but there is a specific spot here that we're referring to. Now, also, if you notice in verse 12, Caleb doesn't say that he's going to conquer this land himself. He's still trusting in the Lord. He's trusting him to be with him. He says, it may be that the Lord will be with me and I shall be able to drive them out. But Caleb knows if the Lord is with him, he'll be able to do that. And that, again, that's another statement of his faith. So he's still trusting God, even at age 85, 45 years later. He's still not afraid of these giants. Well, the Anakim were supposedly giants, and the other spies, if you remember, reported them to be bigger and stronger and have fortified cities. So he's still not afraid of that. And we can apply this to us today if we think about it. They may have faced actual giants or maybe just generally larger and stronger people. But regardless of that, we also face troubles and issues and trials in our lives. And we have times where sometimes it seems like if we look at the 10 other spies, it may seem like we just can't win. We can't get through whatever that is, right? Sometimes it may seem that way to us, that we're having some difficulty, some bad time. But like Caleb, when we're facing those issues, those giants in our lives, those troubles, if we will trust in the Lord, if we will go to Him and trust in Him, He will be with us. He will help us through those times. He will help us get through those rough times or defeat those giants, if you want to think of it that way. He will do that for us. He is with us. So let's see Joshua's response to Caleb. In chapter 14, verses 13 through 15, "And Joshua blessed him and gave Hebron to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, as an inheritance. Hebron therefore became the inheritance of Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, to this day, because he wholly followed the Lord God of Israel. And the name of Hebron formerly was Kirjath Arba. Arba was the greatest man among the Anakim. Then the land had rest from war." Now we see that Caleb did receive his reward here. He is the first to receive his land, all because he fully followed the Lord. Now realize that Caleb waited many years to get this. 45 years he waited to get this. He even wandered in the wilderness and he didn't do anything wrong. If you think about it, that may seem grossly unfair to us, right? But he kept his faith in God and he believed in God's promises, even though he had to wander in the wilderness with everybody else. So he didn't get what he wanted when he wanted it, which we can relate to that, right? Because 45 years ago, he wanted to go in and take the land. He wanted to be there already. So we can relate to that. He went through all of this through really no fault of his own, but he had to wait. He had to be patient. He had to trust in God, and God delivered. God did deliver for him and gave it to him. So he stayed faithful and trusted all those years. Now, in verse 15, where it says this formerly known as Kirjath Arba, just as a point of reference, that just means city of Arba, and that's why they say Arba was the greatest man of the Anakim, because they had named this city after Arba. So it just means city of Arba. So nothing really, not really a big deal for us, but just something to notice and know that. Now, let's see. There is something to be noted about the taking of Hebron, Debir, and what was known as Jebus, but was Jerusalem later. And let's see, these are counted as a part of Joshua's campaign back in chapters 11 and 12. Because all of these accounts here in these chapters of Joshua, they're not really being given to us in a linear fashion. Like I would have started at the beginning and done everything in a certain order, but that's not really how these chapters are here. This is kind of a flashback back to before they actually took this land. So if we think of it that way, this is pointing back to before those chapters where they took these mountains. So you can read back there and get some detail on that. And this here has given us details on what has happened so far up to date, and then it's going to move forward. The account here in Joshua is going to move forward and talk about the land that has not yet been possessed. So just to be aware of that. And also, let's see, you'll notice here at the end of verse 15, it says, "Then the land had rest from war." And this matches what we see in Joshua chapter 11, verse 23. And this is another summary, just like those first 5 verses in Joshua chapter 14. It's a summary. "So Joshua took the whole land according to all that the Lord had said to Moses, and Joshua gave it as an inheritance to Israel according to their divisions by their tribes. Then the land rested from war." So again, like I said, we're seeing this same summary. Joshua and the people had taken so much of the land at this point, but then here they're going to go ahead and divide it up because Joshua's older. And they're they're going to have to do the rest of the fighting without him. So that's part of what we're getting into with all of this. So the land rested from war, like in verse 15 of chapter 14 that we were just looking at. So I just wanted to make sure we were aware that we're backing up and telling some details on things that had already been told previously. Okay, so there's something I want us to see about Caleb. Just another point of interest. He's associated with the tribe of Judah and is listed in Judah's family. If you look at 1 Chronicles chapter 4, verse 15, the sons of Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, were Eru, Elah, and Nam. The son of Elah was Kenaz. I didn't really pay much attention to these names. I'm not very good at that anyway. But we also see Caleb mentioned as Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite. And the Kenizzites are thought to be either Edomites, maybe, or some other Gentile people. And in some manner, maybe through a convert, maybe this guy converted and married Caleb's mother, or some way like that, Caleb was accepted into Israel and into the tribe of Judah in some manner. So, just mentioning that because it shows that God is more interested in our faith and our belief and trust in Him than in our bloodline or our status or anything like that. So he was not like 100% Jewish Israeli regardless. So, and because of his faith, because he fully followed the Lord, Caleb got that special division of land. So if we look at that on the map, and I really wanted us to see Hebron and Debir, or Hebron as I keep saying, and Debir. You can notice though up at the upper end up there, that's where I'm calling it Jebus. It might be Jebus, but Jerusalem was, and then of course Hebron and Debir there. So I had circled them so we would see that. Let's see. So all of these were well defended. That's part of the fortified cities, and they're in the mountains, so of course they have an advantage. If you remember reading about, there were times when Jerusalem had that advantage because it was high in the mountains and it was well fortified. So just to make sure that we understand that. So this mountain territory would have been very good. Caleb got Hebron and Debir, and these would have been excellent cities, again, to fortify and to defend. They were great from a tactical standpoint because they were up high, which is what you wanted back then. Even now, that would be an advantage in a ground war. So the higher ground is always better. So God gives the best to His faithful, those who fully follow Him and trust Him. So we just want to remember to be faithful, to trust in the Lord. I guess I've got a one-point thing going on here. We want to be faithful and trust in the Lord. Know that He is with us and that He can help us through any issue or any problem that we're having. And that's what the other spies and the other Israelites forgot. They forgot God was with them. After all they had seen Him do for them, they forgot that He was with them and He would take care of them in this instance. So if we look at Numbers 14:24 again, just a reminder, but my servant Caleb, because he has a different spirit in him and has followed me fully, I will bring into the land where he went. We're bringing into the land. I don't know if I'm reading that right. And his descendants shall inherit it. So in closing, I just want us to think though of what God is talking about Caleb, what He's saying about him. He has a different spirit. He followed Him fully. And because of that, He will bring, I would really think that should say, I will bring him into the land, shouldn't it? Where he went and his descendants shall inherit it. It's almost like maybe I deleted a word, or maybe that's just the way it reads, and that made perfect sense in the past. It's okay. Regardless, like Caleb, we are also waiting for our promised land. We're waiting for that new city. We're waiting for heaven, however you want to refer to that. But we're waiting for the Lord to return. And we're waiting for our promised land. Now, we may have a long time to wait. We may have already waited a very long time by our reckoning, the way we feel. But if we're faithful, if we'll continue to trust the Lord, we will receive our reward. And our reward, unlike Caleb's reward was temporary here on this earth. We will receive a reward for all eternity. We will be with the Lord, be with God forever. And that eternity will just make this life seem like just a little quick little blip. So we want to remember that. And I would encourage us all to have that different spirit in us, have God's spirit, and follow Him and follow His word. Choose to follow what He has told us in His word. Let His light shine through us. Don't get discouraged. Don't be afraid. But turn to the one who can help, who can always help us. So, if you do not have that spirit, God's spirit, I think everyone here has been baptized. But if anyone here did not have that spirit, we could help you receive the Holy Spirit. The Spirit is God's seal for His people against the coming judgment. And one day the Lord will return, and it's going to be too late at that time. So if there is any doubt, if you've not been buried in Christ, then do not wait. Today is the day. It's always today, and you'll never get a better opportunity than today. It's always today is the best time. So if you're struggling with some sin or doubt or some problem, I would encourage you to follow the Lord fully like Caleb did. Know that He's with you and trust Him. Do not give up. And then if we can help you with anything this evening, if we can pray with you or help you with anything, please come forward as we stand and sing.